let's get started with our session. Thank you so much for joining us today. A quick intro about me. I'm Bala and I lead the support team here at Rocketlane. I'm super excited to be your host today. So, I've had the privilege of working closely with teams, both internal and customers teams, to set up interesting workflows, set up project governance and customer success strategies, and I'm passionate about helping businesses deliver exceptional value. So I'm super happy to do this project governance webinar. Thank you for taking the time to join the webinar series. We really hope that you have been gaining valuable insights and ideas from the session so far. Today's session, I can assure you, is going to be power packed with some super interesting workflows that's going to make project management a piece of cake. So I'm sure you'll all agree with me that managing a project can sometimes feel like a Himalayan task. But with Rocketlane, we made it effortlessly simple. I'm sure you would agree with me. So now that the project management is taken care of by Rocketlane, we are going to focus on setting up some solid project governance so that nothing slips through the cracks, because even with a robust tool like Rocketlane and a solid project plan, sometimes things take an unexpected turn and doesn't go in the way that we want. And by the time we try to realize the impact, it may already be too late to save the project. So this is where our project governance becomes essential. Some of you might already be aware of what is project governance and why do we need it, but let me just quickly give you an intro about why do we need project governance, what is project governance, and how does it going to help us with our so like project governance, basically it provides the framework for establishing the rules, processes, and also the decision making structure for effectively managing the project. So it is very crucial for ensuring our project stays aligned within the goals, and risks are managed early, and stakeholders are involved effectively. So everything is on track and there's no manual intervention needed when we have a solid governance. So this is really important for the success of the project. Not only the project success, but it will also ensure that the customer is set up for a continued success with our product. After all, at the end of the day, that's what we want, right? It's not about just completing the onboarding, but we want the customer to have a long lasting relationship with our products. So that's what project governance helps us with. So with that intro, let's dive into today's agenda. So, in today's topic, we are going to cover five key points or five key workflows. The first one is about mastering the performance metrics using key wins. The next one, we are going to talk about how to ensure the scope integrity of the project. And then we are going to talk about tracking the project's health for for lasting success. And last but not the least, we are going to talk about mitigating risks early, and we are also going to involve stakeholders at the timely manner to avoid any last minute surprises or escalation, or uh, save the project before it becomes too late. So I know this might sound like a lot right now, but as we dive into building the actual workflow, things will become crystal clear, and I'm sure about it. And we are going to make use of two most powerful features of Rocketlane, that is key events and intervals and automations to set up this workflow. So let's dive right into today's topic. The first thing that we are going to talk about is about mastering the performance metrics. So, we all want to give every customer the same great onboarding experience, but that doesn't always happen, right? Like some customers, they end up dissatisfied. That can lead to negative reviews and they end up churning. So that's not what we want. We want to give that seamless, same great onboarding experience for all the customers, but we don't know how. Sometimes we tend to miss it and we are not able to track it. There's no measurable insights for us to improve either the process or the people, or we don't even know where we go wrong. So this is where our key events come into play. So we are going to make use of key events and intervals to benchmark the performance or the onboarding timeline. We are going to call it TTV, the time to value of the project. We are going to track this per project, spot any variations, and we are going to hold either the process or people accountable to keep things on track. And the cherry on top of all this is this exclusive report that we have for key events and intervals. So this gives us an idea of how the TTV has evolved over time. So we can customize the time period over here. It could be anything according to your requirement, and we can change the graph to quarterly, monthly, and weekly to get the report that we want. So, this also gives us a granular view of the key events contributing to the overall TTV of the project, showing us where exactly the delay occurs when things are not going as planned. The TTV is not as per plan, and we would like to grant, take a granular look at where exactly we are lagging. This is the report that's going to give us all the details that we need. And we also have an analyze option to do a mix and match of the key events and intervals and get the desired results that we would like to see. So, for this report to make sense, we need two important things, that is, key events and intervals. So, I'm going to break this down into a three-step process. The first step is creating key events and intervals. The second step is defining them at a template level. The third step is we are going to track them at a project level. And then we get this report that we are looking at right now. So to create the key events and intervals, we need to navigate to the settings by clicking on the profile icon. So under advanced settings, we have the key events and intervals tab. I've already created two key events and intervals that we are going to use it in our session today. But let me quickly give you a rundown of the steps for creating the same. So when you click on new key event, this is what you see. You get an option to enter or give a name for the key event and a relevant description. And what is a key event? I've been talking about key events and intervals for the past 1 minute, but what is a key event and what is an interval? So key event is nothing but a date field that captures the date on which the status of a phase or task changes from one state to another. Interval is nothing but the duration in business days between any two key events. So as simple as that. So there could be instances where we end up changing the status of the phase or task more than once. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say we have a task for data import from the legacy tool. We migrate the data and then we mark the task as completed. So we are going to capture a key event one when this specific task, that is the data import task, is marked as anything from anything to completed. So we have completed the task, we got a sign off from the customer, and then we changed the status to completed. But then after a few days, the customer comes back to us and tells us there are some discrepancies in the migrated data and they would like us to review. So we might end up reopening the task and changing or resolving the discrepancy and then mark it as completed again. But if we want to capture only the first instance when the status change happened, we can enable this. This will ignore any subsequent iterations that we have. We also have an option to allow the admins and project owners to manually edit the dates of the key event. So if we enable this option, which means we can allow the admins and project owners to manually edit the date of this specific key event. That's it. When we hit save, this key event gets created. Like I mentioned a while ago, for any interval to be defined, we need two key events. So I have defined one more go live, and then we can go ahead and create a new interval. So when I click on new interval, you get an option to name and give name the interval and give a relevant description. Then you can select the key events between which we want the interval to be calculated. This is step one. Step two is defining the conditions so that the date gets captured in these fields. So that has to be done at a template level. So today you can access the template by clicking on the template icon and going to the project templates. Today I'm taking the standard onboarding template as an example. So here is the workflow that we are going to do today. Basically, we are going to calculate the time to value of the project. So that is right when the project is started till it gets completed or officially the project is go live. So, like I mentioned earlier, we can either define the key events at a task level or a phase level. So, in today's example, we are going to define it at a task level, and the task is going to be kickoff meeting. So, when this task is marked as completed, which means we have officially kickstarted our project. So, that's when we are going to capture the key event kickoff. Similarly, when the value workshop is officially completed, that's when we are going to capture our key events go live. Let me quickly show you the steps for doing it. When you click on the task or phase, you get the key events tab on your right. Just click on the key events and click on add key events. So I've already defined the condition. Let me explain the process. So when you click on add key events, you need to give the condition or the trigger. Basically, when the status of the task changes from anything, or you can customize this according to your need. Here I'm going with any status to completed, which means we have officially kickstarted our kickoff for that project. So we are capturing the date in the key event field kickoff. For any key events and intervals, we also have a planned date apart from the actual date. So the planned date comes from the project plan, and the actual date comes when the action occurs, that is, the status change occurs. So enabling this toggle captures the planned dates from the project plan. So again, the planned dates can either be derived from the start or due date of of the task or phase. If you are considering the starting of the task, then the planned date should be the start date of the task. If you are considering the completion of the task, in this case, we are considering the completion of the task, then the planned date should be the due date of the task. And there could be instances where we end up making changes to the project plan. Like we might postpone or prepone the project plan by a few days or weeks. And if we want the plan dates to be updated according to the updated plan, then we can enable the checkbox. That's it. Then we hit save, and then do not forget to save the template. Similarly, we are going to the last phase, go live and value delivery. When the task value workshop is completed, which means the project is officially live, you can pretty much define it at any of the task or even at a phase level. Today, I'm going to do it against the task value workshop. Similarly, click on the task and go to the key events tab. When you click on add key events, you get the same condition. Here also, I'm tracking the completion of the task. So the trigger is when the status changes to completed, we are going to capture the date in the field go live. And the planned date is going to be derived from the due date of the task. We are going to update the planned dates if there are any changes in the project plan. That's it. Don't forget to save your template. So the third step is capturing this at a project level. So how or where do you see this at a project level? So navigate to any of the project by clicking on the projects list and clicking on the corresponding project. So in the overview section, you will have a separate tab for key events and intervals. And this is how it would look like. The key event will have a plan date and the actual date, and also a performance indicator. So this gives us an idea about whether the key event or the milestone event that we are talking about happened on time or ahead of time, or whether there was a delay. Similarly, the intervals will give us the planned duration and the actual duration and what is the status. So if it's in progress, which means we have only one key event and we are yet to capture the other key event. So let me quickly show you how it gets captured as and when we make changes in the project. Let's take this project plan as an example. Here we have only the planned dates for kickoff and go live. So let me go to the project plan. Like we have defined the key events against this task kickoff meeting. Basically, when I change the status of this task to completed, my key event gets calculated. So the actual date gets automatically populated and the performance indicator will show. Because we have one key event in place, it will show the actual duration from today. It is like a counter that keeps counting till we have the other key event value, and the status will be in progress. Once we have both the values, like both the actual dates, then the status of the interval will be seen as completed. Like I can quickly show you that. We have defined it against value workshop. We are marking this task as completed. That will give us the go live date. It'll get populated and the interval will be seen as completed. So with this key events and intervals, we can basically benchmark the timeline that it actually takes for the time to value of the project, that is the kickoff to go live. And if there is a variation, depending on the report, we can either make changes to the process if something is not working as expected, or we can tweak the people's approach to keep everything on track and avoid any last minute surprises. So this is how we benchmark performance using our key events and intervals. So one of the most important topics, it's about ensuring the scope integrity of the project. I'm sure even with a comprehensive and a detailed project plan and a great rapport and communication between the internal teams and the customer teams, our customers sometimes they end up adding ad hoc tasks, causing scope creep. The problem is these tasks can get easily overlooked, which can lead to unnecessary friction between the teams. So I would like to give a quick reminder here. Customers can add tasks only from the list view inside a project, and they cannot assign them to a specific phase. This is by design so that the internal team can review the task first, make sure it's within the agreed project plan, and then assign it to the right phase. So we are going to make use of automations to streamline the approval process for any new task that gets created by the customers. So let me quickly show you how to achieve that. So this is the automation that we have created. Let me explain the steps. So because this automation runs on all the tasks, we are talking about the task creation. This rule is going to be triggered, or the automation is going to be triggered on all the tasks. And the condition for triggering the automation is when the task gets created. So when any new task gets created, and if the phase is empty, like I just mentioned, when a customer creates a task, the phase will be empty by default because they cannot assign them to a phase. So we have to check for this condition. When the phase name is empty, then we are going to request for approval for this newly created task. This approval can go to either the implementation manager or the project manager or the project owner. It's totally up to you. You can pretty much choose who should be the approver, and we can set a due date for the approval, or we can leave it as such. Because this is going to be an internal process, we are going to make the approval as a private one. We can customize the message according to what we want to send the approver, and we can either set the requester as customer or leave it blank. If we leave it blank, then the approval will be sent out from the automation bot by default. So this will ensure that each time a new task gets created, it or approval request will get initiated for the newly created task. So this will help us with two things. This will act as a nudge for the team member because, like I said, these tasks can get overlooked because they don't show up in the project plan unless you assign them to the specific phase. So the internal teams are aware of the newly created task in this case. They can also check if it is within the agreed scope and then assign it to the right phase. If it's not within the agreed scope, they can always have a conversation with the customer or involve the necessary POCs from both the teams so that there's no scope creep and we always end up maintaining the project integrity. So let me take a quick pause here. I want to remind you that if you have any questions from whatever we have discussed so far, please feel free to add them to the chat section. I will definitely get back to them before the end of the session. So that's what I wanted to let you know. Next up, we are going to discuss about the project health. I'm sure you all agree with me that keeping a continuous tab on the project's health is not an easy task. Without any manual intervention, it's very difficult to keep a continuous tab on the project's health. So, with we are going to solve this with the help of our automation so that we don't have to keep a tab on the project's health manually anymore. And sometimes, even with all the regular task reminders and everything, we tend to miss deadlines, right? As an internal team, or as a project manager, or an implementation manager, we still tend to miss deadlines. It becomes especially critical when a milestone or an important task slips through. And by the time we realize the impact of this, it may already be too late to course correct, and things can quickly spiral out of control. So, to avoid all this hassle, we are going to create automations to keep a continuous tab on the project's health without any manual intervention from our end. So to do this, we need a couple of project fields. I've already created them, but let me quickly explain. I've also grouped them under the section Project Health for easy access. So we need a number field and we need a single choice field. The number field is basically for defining the degree of risk, and the single choice field is for defining the current status of the project health, and it's going to be red, amber, or green. So the number field, here we are calling it a riskometer. So I'm going to keep it to a scale of 5. One being like least affected, and 5 being the most critical. So that's how we have defined our riskometer. You can totally customize the number according to your need. Let me quickly show you the automation that we are going to have for tracking the project health. We are going to define two different automations. The first one, we are going to talk about the milestone, missing a milestone task, and how we are going to change the riskometer accordingly. The second automation, we are going to update the project health as and when the riskometer gets updated. So, because we are talking about milestone task, this automation is going to be triggered on all the tasks. And the trigger is when the task becomes overdue. There is an important condition that we need to add here, that is if the type contains milestone. Because, like I said, we are going to concentrate more on the key milestone task. But if you would like to do it for a specific task or anything that you consider important, then you can mention either the task name or the type contains milestone. Here we are going with the milestone task. And if it is overdue by 1 day, we are going to mark the task as at risk task, and we are going to update the riskometer field to 2, the value 2. And we are going to also nudge the project owner to take action on the missed milestone. Like I said, instead of, sometimes we may not log into the portal for like a couple of days or 3 or 4 days, but I'm sure we all check our emails every day first thing in the morning. So this will act as a reminder email in case we miss to action on any of the important milestone tasks. The message can be totally customizable. Here we are sending it to the project owner. Again, this is totally customizable. So if the milestone task is overdue by 3 days, which means it becomes really critical, again, we are updating the riskometer value to 4. So to show that things are becoming critical and we need to action on it immediately. And we are going to send an email to the project owner looping in the implementation manager. Here, you can do it as per the hierarchy that's followed in your organization. So this is the first automation. This is when the milestone task becomes overdue, we update the riskometer value. So whenever the riskometer is updated, we are going to set the project health. That is the next automation that we are going to see. Because riskometer is a project field, this automation needs to be triggered on all the projects. And the trigger is when riskometer is updated. So if the value of riskometer is less than 4, which is anything between 1 and 3, then the project else, we are making it as amber. If it's going beyond 3, which means the health is in a very bad state and we need to action immediately, so We are going to change the status to red, and we are going to send an email looping in the primary stakeholder from our end. So this will act as a nudge to the project manager. At the same time, the internal POCs are aware about what exactly is happening with the project. So this avoids any manual intervention or manual reporting of things about each and every project from the project manager or the project owner to the one up, the implementation manager or the head of onboarding, however the hierarchy works. So this avoids all the manual intervention, and this will also ensure that we keep a continuous tab on the project's health so that we can course correct before it becomes too late and avoid any last minute surprises or decisions from the customers. Now, let's move on to the last and the most important topic of today's session. We are going to talk about how to prevent or how to mitigate risks early, how to look out for that early warning signs, and how to effectively involve stakeholders in such scenarios. So, I'm sure we all try to stick to the plan and get things done on time, but that doesn't always happen, right? Like reality often has other ideas, and our projects can go on hold for various reasons like vacation plans, process shifts, management changes, and so on. So to manually keep a tab on all these on hold projects becomes a real challenge, and to send a follow up, we might miss to send a follow up on these on hold projects, and this not only delays the progress of the project, but it will also lead to the customers not seeing value in the product, and that will eventually result in churn. So we are going to prevent this by setting up automations to look out for this early warning signs when a project goes on hold, and we are going to send reminders to the customer team as well as our team about these stalled projects. And it's not just about the reminders, right? We need uh, the stakeholder involvement at the right time so that they can bring things back on track before it's too late. So we are going to automate this entire process without any manual intervention. So again, we are going to combine this two, that is, look out for the warning signs and involving stakeholders at the right time with the help of automations. So, to create this automation, again, we need a couple of project fields, custom project fields. I've grouped them under risk mitigation section for easy access. So, again, it's going to be a number field and yes or no field. This number field on hold days, you can, of course, customize it according to your need. But this one right here, it's going to act as a counter, and it's going to give us day, the total number of days in which the project has been kept on hold. And this gives us an idea whether the customer informed us about postponing or putting the project on hold for a few days or weeks earlier, or if it was a no show from the customer. So I've already created these fields. Let's jump into the automation. So we are going to define three different automations for achieving this. Basically, our end goal is to look for early warning signs when the project goes on hold. And the second thing that we are going to do is automatically loop in the stakeholders. So this is how the automation goes. The first automation that we are going to define is for kickstarting the counter, that is the field on hold days. Because on hold days is a project field, we are going to set this automation on the projects, and the trigger is when the status of the project gets updated. So when the status is marked as on hold, we are going to set the counter to 1. So we are replacing the value of this field on hold days, and we are setting the value 1, which means we are initializing this counter. And then we are going to set up a scheduled automation. So, what is a scheduled automation? It is an automation that runs every day at a set time. And if the conditions are met, then the action block gets executed. So, the time is totally customizable as per your time zone. So we are going to set the schedule on projects. You have an option to choose whether it is going to be on projects or tasks. Because we are talking about the project field, the schedule is going to be on projects, and you can customize the time. If the status of the project is going to be on hold, then we are going to increase the counter by one with each passing day. So we are going to add value, and the value is going to be one. So with each passing day, the counter will be increased by one. So based on the number of days, we are going to take our next action. That is the third automation. Again, this is going to be on projects because we are talking about the project field on hold days. If the on hold days is greater than 7, which means if the project was kept on hold for a week, then we are going to send a reminder email. Basically, we are going to nudge both the customer team member as well as our team member, the project owner, or we can add the implementation manager according to our plan. And we are going to send like a reminder email that we have put this project on hold, and just nudging them so that we can kickstart the project again. So if the project is going to be on hold for more than 2 weeks, then we are going to involve the stakeholders from both the ends. So this will ensure that the key stakeholders are involved at the right time so that it doesn't come as a surprise to them. Sometimes they may not be aware of the on hold projects. They might be thinking that everything is on track and we are proceeding as per plan. So, involving stakeholders at the right moment is key to getting things back on track. So, there's not only access and nudge, but this automatically takes care of involving the stakeholders or the right POCs at just the right moment so that we can bring things back on track before it's too late. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our sessions. Hoping to see you in the next one really soon. Thank you so much.